Roger Stone here. Your dollars are losing ground, but gold isn't. American Sovereign Bullion helps you protect your wealth through real, tangible assets. Through their nationwide wholesaler network, you get some of the best pricing on gold and silver delivered straight to your door. Since 1912, the U.S. dollar has lost 97% of its purchasing power. Meanwhile, gold continues to prove its strength. So call 844-272-2428. That's 844-272-2428. Or visit dyingdollar.com to request your free gold and silver guide. That's dyingdollar.com.
This is the Cats Roundtable with John Catsimatidis.
Everywhere around the world, they come to America. Every time that flag's unfurled, they come to America.
Good morning, New York. This is the Cats Roundtable. John Catsimatidis here Sunday morning. We're going to have Bruce Blakeman, who's running for governor. Janine Driscoll running for Congress in Nassau County. Steve Cates, what's going on in those skies? Suzanne Miller, residential real estate in New York City. Bonnie Brady, well, I guess we're winning a little bit on those windmills in Long Island. Governor David Paterson. Dr. Mason Pimsler, and he is making progress on medical assistances in the Bronx. Hank Scheinkoff. John Cherrett on what's going on with the markets. And starting off on a Sunday morning, Mike Stoller and the Real Estate Report.
Good morning, this is Mike Stoller for the Stoller Real Estate Report. What's happening in retail today? It's an interesting feature taking over all over the country, different types. So today I have someone who specializes in unique type of retail, the emergence of fitness and entertainment retail as an anchor and a traffic driver. My guest is Max Tal-Pilar, who is a principal at Capricorn Retail Advisors. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Mike. Pleasure to be here.
Explain what entertainment retail is.
Absolutely. So within the world of real estate, you've got a bunch of different categories, starting big picture here. There's office, there's industrial, there's retail, there's residential. Within retail real estate, you can break that up into several different segments. Some of the most well-known retail uses will be apparel, cosmetics, right? Your clothing stores. If you walk down Fifth Avenue, there's luxury brands. There's plenty of places to buy watches and shirts. That's one part of retail. Another part of retail is food and beverage, very well known as well. And then the piece that we might talk a little bit about today is the experiential entertainment and fitness world.
So let's talk about those areas. Which one first?
So as a group, I think it's important to start with over time how it's changed. I think for a long time, those uses were not considered as exciting or as premier as apparel uses were. And you see this in the site selection, right? When you think of a typical gym, you think of something local, something nearby homes. It's in the suburbs. It's in a strip mall, right? And over the years, there have been more and more upgrades to that model. You look at a brand like Equinox, for example, right? They turned that model into a premium place. Now it's not just somewhere to lift weights, but you want to go there, you want to be there, you want to be seen there, and you're willing to pay a premium price. And with that, you have better locations. So what once would have been in New York City, a brand like, Blink or Crunch, which are very good brands, but they're less expensive. Now people are willing to pay, instead of $50 a month, they're paying $300 a month. And I think that's a good example of the growth of this category, where it's not just simple, everyday run-of-the-mill, but now you can get some higher revenue from it.
I mean, 10 years ago, I don't think people would be talking about gyms that climbing. So let's talk about climbing gyms.
Absolutely. So within that fitness entertainment sector, there's a lot of niche activity, right? And so you have your big full service gyms like the Equinoxes and the Lifetimes and so on and so forth. Those LA Fitness, right? They kind of do a little bit of everything. But now you also have the growth of these niche brands as their own respective retail locations. So instead of just having, everything kind of in one box, you have, for example, climbing gyms. These climbing gyms are, growing all over the country. It is not just the sport of climbing and the act of climbing, but it's a third place, as we say, not home, not work, a third place where people can gather. Climbing gyms are one of those.
Okay, and at climbing gyms, they're utilizing yoga and other opportunities.
Depends on the brand. So one brand that I work with that's a great client of mine is Movement Climbing Yoga Fitness. They incorporate more than just climbing. They also have a yoga. They also have weightlifting. They have group fitness classes. Not every gym does that. They do it. And it's been great for them because it creates a universe that someone paying a membership can now go to this location for all of their needs, not just the climbing.
Including padel and pickleball?
So another...
two areas that have really shot up over the last 10 years, over the last 3 years, I'd say.
Absolutely.
10 years ago, you wouldn't have even heard. What is this?
It's a great point. Though that sector, similar to climbing, is another third place for people. Where are people spending their time outside of home and work? With padel and pickleball, two very different sports. And for those who are listening, pickleball is more common in the U.S. Padel is more common all over the rest of the world.
What do you attribute that?
I think it's just timing. Paddle started in Mexico, and in the late 60s, early 70s, it spread to Europe and became very popular. And, in the United States, we like doing our own thing. So sometimes, people have to feel something is homegrown in this country for, to jump on it.
Which of the areas are growing faster, paddle or pickleball?
So the comparison that I like to make in terms of those two is the Super Bowl and the World Cup. Because here in the U.S., you hear about, the Super Bowl, it's the biggest event. And then you see the numbers that the World Cup does, and you realize, okay, the whole rest of the world is so big. And that's pickleball versus paddle. Pickleball is the American Super Bowl, and here it's super popular, but in other countries it's not as big. Paddle worldwide is, so much bigger.
I'd like to thank you for being here, and I think people are very interested in a topic that really hasn't been discussed. So I wish you the best of luck in the future.
Mike, appreciate you having me. This was great.
The Cats Roundtable.
With us today is Dr. Mason Pimsler. He reinvented healthcare in the Bronx. And Dr. Pimsler, what the heck is going on in the Bronx that everybody should know about?
So I work in the South Bronx, and what's going on is that there is just, especially with the immigration that has occurred over the past few years, the amount of patients that have been coming into the South Bronx with multiple medical problems, different cardiovascular, diabetes, obesity, everything, mental health, and a big one. And it just hasn't been addressed really that much. The resources haven't been there. And thankfully, HHC has provided those resources. And I have just taken those resources and unleashed them on the patients. So, for instance, there are patients that come in that are, due to the lack of eating proper foods, are becoming so obese. And it becomes a vicious cycle. You become obese. You start getting cardiovascular, you start getting diabetes, and then Medicaid and all the insurance companies start having to pay for this. So what I've been doing, which I thought it was unique, is I reached out to Novartis, and they've been so helpful in providing free Ozempic and Wegovy to me to provide to these patients. And I use the weight loss drugs that cost thousands of dollars, and I give it to people on Medicaid and that don't have insurance, and we don't have to charge Medicaid or insurance, and I provide it free of charge. So a lot of patients here in the Bronx that are obese and that are developing cardiovascular disorders, diabetes, heart failure, I'm giving these medications. They're losing weight. Their diabetes are improving. It's not costing anyone anything. And I'm just feel very good about that. And the patients feel good. because they feel more confident. They could then go out and get jobs. Their health is not becoming a social determinant. Social determinant is a determinant that prevents someone from getting the health care, from getting their diseases taken care of, and from fully living their full life. And
so you are taking care of people that are needy and not getting health care the way they should be getting in places like the Bronx. Depending on the foods they eat traditionally, how can we better tell people the right things to eat? And are you moving in that direction at all?
Yes, big difference. That's right. It's big. You can go to the different counties. A lot of people don't realize what you just said. And the foods and the cultures direct that. I could walk out here in the South Bronx out of my hospital, and you have the food trucks, and you have the bodegas and the Mexican restaurants, and the people are eating, and it's also an economic thing, tortillas, all these fatty foods. So what I do push it. I push the Mediterranean diet. I'm a big believer in the Mediterranean diet. I'm big on the fishes. I'm big on lean meats. I'm big on beans, legumes.
If you eat what I've been telling people, if our creator made the food, then you should be more confident in that than if a large manufacturer made the food.
Yeah, with the plant-based diets are very, very, very helpful and very good. And we have something here that we've started here at Lincoln called Lifestyle Medicine, and it's all based on plant foods and diet. And it really helps the people here in the South Bronx because they're not eating properly. So, yeah, that is the main etiology, is the diet, right? So that's the main cause of the majority. Of course, it's genetic.
There was an old expression when me and you were growing up, crap in equals crap out. You know, I'm saying it in a nicer way.
No, it does. It does. Crap in equals crap out. And the thing is, you're right. I have a lot of patients, though, that can't get it out, that it's constipated, that I have to work on because of the foods, you know, and it's difficult. And especially as you get older, I'm a geriatrician as well. That's my subspecialty. And, you know, your colon gets dry. And due to getting dry and poor food, you're not getting it out as much.
Well, I will tell you what, if you don't go every day, I mean, your body is trained to get rid of toxins. But if you leave it, if you leave it in your colon too long and it has toxins in it, that's what causes colon cancer.
100%. And as you've had my friend Dr. Luis Diaz on there, he will tell you that as well. And that's why the colon cancer rate has gone up so much in people younger than 50, younger than 45, because they're not cleaning their colon out as much.
You got to get the toxins out of your body, and you'll be healthier.
100%. Take fiber. I prescribe to all my patients psyllium fiber powder in their water bottles. I try to push that. It's huge, huge. It'll help it move.
Dr. Mason Pimslow, we're out of time, but let's continue to talk because, you know, we want people to live longer.
Absolutely, John. It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me on. Be well.
You are listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back.
Let Century Management Solutions get you to your next medical appointment. They specialize in non-emergency medical transportation, connecting patients to care, safety, reliability, and on time. Their advanced technology platform seamlessly coordinates patients, healthcare providers, insurers, and transportation partners all in one powerful network. With over 200 trusted transportation providers, they deliver scalable solutions backed by real-time tracking and complete transparency. Go to SENTRYMS.com.
For the moments that matter, choose Curad Naturals. Infused with aloe vera and vitamin E, Curad Naturals bandages protect your unexpected scrapes, cuts, and burns while also moisturizing your skin. Find deeper relief with natural ingredients you can trust to start the healing. When life's surprises call for the best, choose Curad, a deeper level of care. Shop the full collection on Amazon or visit Curad.com to learn more.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. With us today is Governor David Paterson. Governor Paterson, what are we talking about this morning?
Well, I was reading about 2 or 3 weeks ago, John, about the other states and how the party in the majority, be it all a Republican Party or a Democratic Party, are really coming down on redistricting in a completely partisan way. And there's no real way that the opposition can stop them. And what it's really doing is dividing our country almost the way it was divided before the Civil War. And in particular, up to now, New York had not acted as if they were going to go in that direction. But now it looks like the legislature has decided that they want to do this. I don't think.
What are they going to do?
What they're going to do is draw their own maps. And they're going to draw.
So they're going to do it all over again.
They're going to do it all over again. And I don't think this is something that the governor was really excited about doing, but she's completely outnumbered here, and so she's almost taking the lead on it just to maintain that relationship. But it's a real problem, and it's interfering with one of the most fabled ways in this country we have moved ahead of other countries by really having a democratic process where people vote their conscience and not the party. Not to be outdone, the legislature has also passed legislation reducing the time between the hearings for individuals who are convicted of crimes. So you may have situations now where criminals will get a chance to have a hearing every year. And in the case of murder cases, there will be families being dragged back into the process to look at the person who killed their family member. I just don't understand how the members of the legislature could do that.
Now, I had Carolyn Maloney on last week, and she is pushing the Equal Rights Amendment for women, and she's also pushing the Women's Museum. But I understand there's one controversy brought up by Hakeem Jeffries that they want not only men and women, they want the additional 6 genders.
Well, I think we've tried it in this country after basically causing people who were lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgendered out of the closet. So if the classification is going to be men and women, it would still stand. But what the minority leader of the Senate is saying, he wants them identified by the way they identify themselves. And that it's not going to happen because the Republicans are not going to put that in a bill. They're just not going to do it. And so I suggest they find something else to do with their time other than that.
What else would you like to talk about this Sunday morning?
Well, John, because of the couple of issues that I raised right in the beginning, I think, as I said, we're moving more toward a society that is going to be balkanized. We're not going to really understand each other. We're not going to work with each other. We're going to make presumptions about people or ideas that are going to really injure the process of a country that for so many years has led the world in terms of inventions, in terms of opportunity, in terms of a way to run a government without people being abused by it. And if we're unlucky, and this continues for too much longer, we're going to be in a dire situation.
Governor David Paterson, thank you for coming on this Sunday morning, and let's hope common sense prevail, and me and you will still be around to celebrate the 300th year of our country.
Fantastic.
The Cats Roundtable.
We have with us Bruce Blakeman, who's running for governor of New York State. And Bruce Blakeman, You're the county executive of Nassau County, and you've been voted the safest county in America. Can we get New York City, New York State to be the safest state in America?
Well, we are going to make it the safest state in America. We're going to back our blue. We're going to hire more law enforcement professionals. We're going to change our laws that now are pro-criminal and make it pro-safety. And we got an economic plan, our first 100 days in office, that's going to create affordability and prosperity in our state.
Now, some of the budgets coming out of Albany and New York, people are concerned that New York City, New York State is not going to be affordable. What can you do?
Well, first of all, in my first 100 days in office, I intend to cut income taxes. There'll be no taxes on a single earner that makes $50,000 or less, or a couple that makes $100,000 or less. That's number one. Number two, our utility rates in New York State are 70% higher than the national average. I will cut them in half. We will cut out the green energy scam where we're spending billions of dollars on science projects that don't work. They produce very little energy. They're very expensive. And I will drill, baby, drill with one of the largest natural gas reserves in the world right here in New York State. You know how crazy it is, John? The same Marcellus Reserve that we share with the state of Pennsylvania, we are drilling in Pennsylvania, but not in New York. We're buying Pennsylvania gas from the same reserve. We could do that here in New York, create prosperity, bring the supply of energy up, and the supply of energy going up means prices go down. On one side of the border in Pennsylvania, there's prosperity. People have brand new roads. There's economic development. On the southern tier of New York, it's one of the poorest places in America. We can create instant prosperity there that would be good for the whole state, but more importantly for the whole state, it would bring down energy costs to start taking that natural gas that we have here in New York and spreading it across our state, increasing the supply, bringing that prices down. No more solar farms on rich farmland upstate that's covered in snow for 6 months or produces no energy. That's a total scam. When I become governor, we will make it more affordable by cutting utility rates, cutting taxes, and bringing better paying jobs into New York State.
You want to save the businesses from leaving by having a more common sense in business in New York City, New York State. And I think that some of the business people are panicking because it looks like double taxation without representation.
Well, that's exactly right. We're driving out businesses. We're driving out high net worth individuals who bring prosperity to our state. They bring jobs. John, think of it this way. You know, Kathy Hochul and Zohran Mamdani are trying to get rid of these billionaires that are located in New York State by taxing them even more. They're already paying the vast share of taxes in our state. By running them out of the state, it creates a gap that'll have to be filled by middle-class taxpayers. We don't want that. In addition, when a high net worth individual leaves our state, who does it hurt? It hurts our carpenters, our electricians, our plumbers, our waiters, our waitresses, the dog walker, you name it. People get hurt when people with money leave our state, and they've been leaving our state in droves. I'm going to keep them here. I'm going to attract more business here. I'm going to attract rich people to our state because rich people bring jobs.
Well, I mean, people want confidence in government, and right now they're lacking a little bit of confidence. In safety, we want safety in our streets. We want our energy costs to come down. We want business. We want people to back the blue and making sure that we have law enforcement. And those are important things.
That's what everybody wants. Republicans, Democrats, independents, they all want the same thing. Safer communities, more affordable prices. They want better jobs with better wages and better benefits. You know, John, when I walk around New York City or I go upstate and I meet with people upstate, it's the same thing. People are miserable under Kathy Hochul, And I have so many Democrats, what I would call common sense Democrats, who come up to me each and every day and tell me I'm a lifelong Democrat. I've never voted Republican before, but I'm voting for you, Bruce Blakeman, for governor because you're a common sense guy. You know how to create economic activity, and you know how to keep communities safe.
Did you hear, by the way, Bruce, this is important, New York, New Jersey, which is our neighbor, Exxon, after 140 years of being New Jersey, they're moving to Texas. Samsung, another major New Jersey company, moving to Texas. And this all happened last week.
Well, you know, New Jersey has the same faulty policies as New York State, and people are starting to get wiser. They're getting smarter. They know that people who promise them free stuff, it's all a scam, it's all a gimmick. The only way to create more affordability is to create better jobs. Put more money in people's pockets, cut their taxes, cut their utility rates. That's how you make it affordable. I know how to do that. I haven't raised taxes in 4 years. As a matter of fact, I cut a $150 million tax increase to my predecessor. I've gotten 7 bond upgrades, 4 budget surpluses. I know how to run a big organization. My county's larger than 8 states in population, and I win because I know how to get it done. And in a county with 110,000 more Democrats than Republicans, I just won re-election in a landslide, John. So people know that I care about their communities and I know how to run a government. If you want to volunteer or you want to make a contribution, we would love your support. Go to BlakemanForNewYork.com.
BlakemanForNewYork.com. Bruce Blakeman, running for governor, county executive of Nassau County. Good luck, and we'll talk again real soon.
Thanks, John.
Thank you for listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back right after this break. Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. With us today is Hank Sheinkoff, Democratic strategist, and I told him about the party that we had for President Clinton the other night, and how everybody in that room, maybe 100 people, were talking about what does it take to bring the Democratic Party back to common sense. Well, Hank Sheinkoff, you should have been in that room because your ears must have been ringing.
Listen, it was a different time. If you look at it, and I helped write the ads for the president and shot the first ones that went up in early 1995 because he was electorally in trouble and we wanted to win the race. I remember going through the statistics and we cut ads that talked about, Clinton comes to office, the economy screwed up, the Republicans have made a mess of things, all kinds of chaos. What he did was he stabilized the economy. We were not a debtor nation. The country was at peace overall.
Newt Gingrich and him brought the deficit down, which is unheard of, from $5.5 trillion down to $5 trillion.
It was nothing, and the country functioned better. People were working. The country had gone through a jobs problem. Our rates were outrageous. The cost of things was tough. It was the economy, stupid, as James Carville was smart to say in 1992. And when Clinton had a second term, he did the best he could. There were 2 errors. Welfare reform, he'll tell you, was one. And the crime bill could have been better, but putting 100,000 cops on the street throughout the country meant a lot. The problem is it didn't capture the people that should have been captured. But look, it was a more rational time, and he had been a governor, so he understood governance at the most bottom level, and he understood people, and he was a Southerner, which was also important. He was much more directed toward the people that needed the services, and he really had compassion, and he also read everything. So what we now have is a generation of Democrats who don't read everything, don't read anything in some cases, who are simply professionals for the purpose of being professionals in government, just like the Republicans. We have the political industrial complex, which cares not about the will of the people, but cares about keeping people on the payroll so they can collect a lot of money for jobs that used to pay very little. They can have pensions, they can have health insurance that most Americans can't afford. And we have this political industrial class that's going to stay in power as long as it can, because that's all it knows how to do. It doesn't know how to serve people. It knows how to stay in power and serve itself. And the consultants are part of that, frankly. The whole consultant thing has changed dramatically because of the amount of money involved here. So we have a monstrous political bureaucracy kept in power by people who wanted to stay in power, not for the public, but for themselves, and a political class of consultants who really don't care about ideology or anything else. We used to call ourselves warriors. And Joe Napolitan, who's gone now, but who was my mentor and helped create the political business, always said that we were the clarions of democracy. That's not the case anymore. What we are now is the clarions of bank accounts. Whole different thing, John.
And
safety is it.
Why is certain Democrats are taking the position that they're representing the criminals more so than the citizens?
Well, they're representing disruption, John, because they seem to think that disruption is a fine thing, and that disruption in the way it is occurring, which is much more violent than it was during the 60s or any other period where you've had the civil disobedience of significant kind, is okay. Why? Because that's what the population seems to want, and they're not interested in restoring order so much as they are in discussing restoring order. And the police have become a liability for some of them, which is a tragedy. The relationship between the public and police has gone through its moments, and the George Floyd homicide, frankly, changed the entire way we view policing in this country. But we need police, and we need courts that are stable, and we need judges that are able to make reasonable decisions based upon the law. What we've created, and even in New York State, is an ideological bench of judges and attacks on the police department, which will ultimately, in New York City particularly, which will ultimately result, depending who's running the place, in chaos and disorder. So that's simple. You cannot have it both ways. And the people we're talking about, John, have never, largely in the streets, have never had a tough day, have never had to put a callus on their hands, are the most pampered generation in history, have eaten more regularly than any other generation ever created, have been housed more regularly, yes, at higher cost, unfortunately, and have, frankly, stand to gain the greatest transfer of wealth in the history of mankind in the next 10 years or so. So the complaints are overwhelming. The desire to make change is, yes, there. The desire to come up with a platform that makes any sense is not there, because they've been trained very differently. Their interests somehow revolve around foreign affairs, notably obsession with the Jewish state. And ultimately, this will deteriorate. Simple. It will deteriorate.
Thank you, Hank Shankloff. Let's continue this conversation because it needs continuing, and we'll catch up again real soon.
I hope so, John. All the best to you and your listeners.
The Cats Roundtable.
With us today is Suzanne Miller. Nobody knows the residential market better than Suzanne Miller. Well, Suzanne Miller, tell us what the heck is going on.
John, funny you should say that, because yesterday in the mail, I finally received my Never Bet Against New York ability to use that as my trademark. So I am still not betting against New York, but there's some bills that are happening right now that have actually come into pass this last 2 weeks that are finally concerning me. So let's talk about the first one, John. You see that there's going to be $22 billion being spent over the next 10 years to build 400,000 homes. You saw that, right?
There is no $22 billion. I don't know who's going to be supplying the $22 billion.
Well, let's just say.
And I don't think that right now the only person that has $22 billion is the federal government. And I don't think over the next 3 years when President Trump is president, that $22 billion is going to come in unless the mayor and the governor and the president all agree on everything.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because out of the $22 billion, $5.6 billion is owned by the city. It's owned by the state. It's called NYCHA, and there's 270,000 of those apartments that they're saying out of the $22 billion, phantom billion, 25% of that, John, they want to use to fix those apartments. They want to use that to fix those apartments. They are the worst landlords, and they're not the ones.
New York City is the worst landlords with NYCHA. You're 110% right. And you know what they don't tell people? That 30 or 40%, I don't know the exact number, that are not paying rent at all, and they don't get evicted. So why do you spend all this money building and fixing these apartments when nobody pays the rent? And nobody goes to jail, nobody gets evicted. I don't understand that.
Well, on that, so they're doing this because there's a housing shortage. So we're saying we're trying to build 400,000 homes, 266,000 already on a disrepair. But what nobody's talking about is there are probably another 100,000 that are sitting off the market because landlords cannot afford to put those apartments on the market. So if they would just pay those landlords or give them some incentive to put their apartments on the market, maybe that would cut into half of this problem.
Now, I don't understand that either because they are trying to punish as many landlords as they can, and there's no return on investment.
Exactly.
If there's no return on investment, why should they invest?
So, John, if you were building a building and the place was empty for 30 years or there was one tenant in there, what do you think it would cost to renovate that apartment in today's market?
I have no clue.
Let's say a kitchen. Let's say floors. Let's say the price of goods. $60,000 is low to fix an apartment. Do you know what you could rent those apartments on today's rent stabilization laws? $300 more a month. $300 more.
Nobody's going to
do.
spend the money.
So this is what's going to happen. Well, there's going to be a housing shortage. This is going to be a tremendous. I think that we can go into a big recession because of this. If these apartments get taken back, and the banks are not defaulting on all these loans. These landlords are going to walk away. I think that the city wants to take these places back. It's going to create a downward spiral.
Unless Albany becomes smarter and New York City becomes smarter, then it's going to create a downward cycle. The other story I read a couple of days ago was I hope Albany and New York City reviews 99 apartments for a location. Otherwise, you have to give triple coupons. I mean, I'm exaggerating in cost to build more than 99 apartments.
99 floors, you mean? 99 apartments because of the 485X.
Yes.
So what's happening with the 485X, I think you're absolutely right. What has to happen is Albany and the city has to work together to make an incentive for the private developers to build and give them some tax incentives so that there's not been a realistic tax incentive since 485, and it's not working because, as you said, past 99 apartments, the rate of labor goes up. You have to keep them forever rent stabilized, rent affordable. So I think that if we could come up with a new plan and we could find the private sector work with the public sector, that might help. And I think that we'd be onto something. But right now, it seems like they want to get rid of all the wealthy. We're talking about Pied à Terre. It was supposed to be up to $5 million. Now they snuck in $1 million. 4% on $1 million. That's $40,000 a year annually.
They're going to hurt New York City, New York State big time because we need smarter people to sit down together between our city and our state and work things out. And I don't understand. Rebney used to have smart people on it, and I don't know the people on it now, so I'm not going to criticize. But it was Rebney's job.
They don't have the cachet they did, John.
But 60% of the contributions made in New York City and Albany were real estate related. So what happened?
I think that you have different companies that came in and took over. And I think that what's happened is the young kids they're the ones creating all of this. They think that they could just get things for free. Nobody wants to work. They want free housing. They want free buses.
That's a big discussion that me and you are going to have again. Thank you so much, Suzanne Miller, and God bless you and God bless America.
Thank you.
With us this morning is Janine Driscoll, and she is running for Congress in Nassau's 4th District. Well, Janine Driscoll, why are you running for Congress? Tell us about yourself and tell us what you stand for.
Good morning. So, I am in the southern part of Nassau County. I'm running against Laura Gillen, who is the incumbent. I'm running because I really support the president's agenda, and I would like to see that agenda continue. Right now in Nassau County, things are going very well. Obviously, County Executive Bruce Blakeman does a fantastic job for us. But, that's just now, and things can change overnight. We live on the border of the city. I watch what's happening in the city very closely. I have a son right now in the NYPD Police Academy. So, I'm from Queens originally, so I'm very familiar with all the boroughs. I was raised there, went to high school there. So I do worry that things can change very quickly for us in Nassau. The other reason I'm running is because Laura Gillen, my opponent, has consistently voted against the interests of our constituents. She has had, vote after vote where she rejects any type of tax cut. She voted against the restoration of SALT. She also voted against no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security. And I don't think her voting on other issues is in line with the interests. She recently voted no on funding for a Smithsonian Institution museum dedicated to the significant contributions of women because it didn't include transgender women.
I understand Hakeem Jeffries had made a statement that he wants to include on the Museum for Women 6 other genders.
And, I'm very tuned in, family values. I have a large family. I have 5 kids, and, I've raised them all in Nassau with my husband. And we're just trying to live the American dream. We're trying to have, morals that can make my kids successful, but do the right thing. And I do think that when I consider what goes on in the Democrat Party, it's unconscionable. I look at New York State with the budget, where you have a budget that is absolutely outrageous. And, they're just funding more and more money into these programs for illegals. Even the schools, they're putting all this money in the schools, but the schools aren't improving. They're getting worse. So, something has to give. Our taxes have gone up, child care costs have gone up, rent has gone up, electricity, energy costs have gone up. And yet what they're talking about in, the assembly the other day is, getting rid of the terms mother and father, and we're going to be called gestational and non-gestational. So they're trying to really undermine really what it is, family values, good values, and kind of put us all under their control. And the only sense I can make of it, I guess, is power. I don't understand why they would want to do that. But again, the needs of New Yorkers are not being met. So I have to say, I am so happy to be running along with Bruce Blakeman. I've been with Bruce a lot. I marched with him on Sunday at the Israel Day Parade. He's just a fantastic person. He's so talented and smart. And so I always say to Bruce, I can't wait to work with him, because we need to have Congress people in Nassau that can get our Republican governor's agenda also, in place and help him push the values and the programs that he wants. And it doesn't really make sense to me, because Nassau County has been red for the last few years, bright red. And we did so well last year in the election, where other parts of the country didn't do that great. And so I don't understand how we have 2 Democrats in Congress. So I think that's going to change on November 3rd. I am confident that I can take back this seat for the Republicans and help President Trump and really support him in everything he's doing.
Janine Driscoll, thank you so much for coming on this Sunday morning.
Thank you so much.
You are listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. Well, like every Sunday, to expand our minds, we have our friend Dr. Sky, but his real name is Steve Cates. Well, Steve, what do you have for us this Sunday morning?
Well, John, good morning. Good Sunday morning to everybody listening. We're going to go back a little bit in time and talk about something that happened May 28th. What happened? Blue Origin, Jeff Bezos' big rocket, the New Glenn, was strapped to the launch pad to do what they call a hot fire. And something sad happened to the entire rocket. Many people may know by now the entire rocket assembly exploded on the launch pad. Now, let's give fair credit to this particular project. Bezos and his team of aerospace engineers and space scientists have worked very hard, John, to develop these BE-4 rocket motors, the main rocket motors. They're powered by liquid methane and liquid oxygen. And they have to fire for 190 seconds when that rocket gets off the ground to escape velocity. But, John, sadly, the entire launch pad, LC-36 in Florida, was destroyed, as we know. And they were actually set for a June 4th launch to put some 49 satellites into orbit. But here's the practical side of what's going to happen, John. Right now, the entire moon mission with Artemis and also the connection with Jeff Bezos and Blue Origin is probably going to get a setback. Why? They, Bezos and his team, are developing the Blue Moon lander, very much essential for when we do land on the moon. And before they do that, they're going to land a robot called the Blue Moon Mark 1 to test the system out. So, John, in the simplest way I can say it, it's a setback for the whole moon mission because they need that component the lunar lander. And with this rocket explosion, things are actually a little bit unsettled at this point.
Well, I was so surprised because does that set us back at all on anything on the moon or on what we're doing on the moon?
Well, John, it probably does if the contracts go the way they are, and I'm not privy to all the fine details. Obviously, SpaceX is working on the main rocket, the Starship. But if all goes as I read it here right now, it is obviously going to be a bit of a setback. Isaacman, the NASA director, has indicated that. But I say this way, don't rush it. Obviously, we've been there before, and I think you would wholeheartedly agree. Make sure you have the right equipment that's been obviously tested, and especially if you're going to put human beings on the surface of the moon. Yes, John, it probably does set us back a bit. But maybe not.
And NASA has been saying that they want to build something more permanent on the moon. Is this part of this particular mission, or is that in the future?
Well, John, it's kind of linked to the same thing. Yes, they need to get cargo to the surface of the moon to build a habitation, to build a place to survive on the moon. So they're together. These projects are hand in hand. So we'll have to see what happens. But in order to get that particular heavy load of material up to the moon, you're going to be depending on Starship, Elon Musk's pride and joy, the most powerful, of course, at least we know, delivery rocket to the moon. So, yes, all these things are pretty much hand in hand. But you got to land, and you have to have a habitation to live more than just one quick, few-hour journey. We'll have to see what happens.
Understood. The other thing that people are talking about is the disclosures that are coming out. It's going to become a very, very hot issue. We get the joke is we get 1950s type pictures of the possible. UFOs, but that there's other more important pictures available. One general has said that there's a picture of the UFO next to the B-52, and there was a being looking through each other at the B-52. And there's other stories that the astronauts have been restricted from saying things.
Yes, John. There's so many things. Even with this disclosure, a simple seventh-grade mind would say, give us some concrete evidence. Obviously, John, I'm a believer that there's life out in the universe. The problem is, if we've had all these alleged recoveries and alien body captures, obviously, we need to see one bit of credible evidence. So with this whole story, it continues on. Obviously, one of the biggest news stories, as you know, in the entire world. We're waiting for some kind of disclosure, and Spielberg's movie, obviously, Disclosure, of course, appropriately named, comes out to hopefully give us a little bit more insight from his great genius and thought patterns. But, John, the mystery continues because we're going to continue on our own show, the Dr. Sky Experience, getting some of the best people we can to do what? Open up our minds about these mysteries, and especially one.
And you're on every Saturday at midnight, Saturday at midnight and Friday night at midnight, which is Saturday morning and Sunday morning, 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you, John.
The Cats Roundtable.
And with us today is Bonnie Brady, and she is the policy director of the New England Fishermen's Association. You've been trying to defend the coastline. You've been defending the fishermen. You've been defending the whales. And it looks like we're making some progress. Can you tell all Americans what's going on?
Well, right now, John, I'm down in D.C. I was walking the halls a bit with my director of advocacy, Jason Joyce, and we were part of the Capitol Hill Ocean Week, which takes place every year. So we did have a lovely billboard sign thanking President Trump for his efforts to stop offshore wind, and that we look at it as incredibly destructive, and basically fishermen are at war with offshore wind. So we made it very clear, that line in the sand, as to how we feel about it. I don't know if you've heard, but usually when they build an offshore wind farm, they then, and most of Long Island, I think, has been fighting these, when they bring the cables in addition to going into whatever new power plant or updated power plant they have to do, they usually add a battery energy storage system, or what they refer to as a BESS, with it. So I don't know if you're aware of this, But back in 23, they put a 5-megawatt facility in East Hampton from South Fork Wind Farm. It cooked in 2023, and the entire thing burned. It wasn't like Moss Landing. It didn't escape and explode. However, they said that in order to put it out, they have to put a mist. What basically, these battery energy storage centers are lithium ion based, and they have this nasty little habit of catching fire. It's called thermal runaway, and that's exactly what happened within 9 months of them building the facility. They were able to suppress the fire by using a heavy-duty misting. About 2.2 million gallons of water were used over a several-day period to stop it from exploding. But when we had a local advocate named Cy Kinsella, who had been fighting the project for a very long time, ask about, well, is the DEC going to test the soil? What's going on here? These things don't have what they refer to as catchment systems. So when the water goes to mist, it just goes out of the building and down into the groundwater. And on Tuesday, the Suffolk County Water Authority sued the battery plant developer because apparently it contaminated with PFAS 2 wells in Bridgehampton at the height of the Hamptons peak season. And so they're suing in court for damages and legal fees for the company that owns them, which of course is an LLC, so they'll probably close doors and run away quickly, and 2.2 million gallons of water contaminant into our groundwater. And this is the same, these things do the same thing no matter where they are. They're not offering catchment systems to hold on to this so it doesn't spoil the soil. DEC took a month before they showed up and did a soil sample and said, ooh, tests were inconclusive. Well, don't worry, because the water got tested, and in fact, it leached along with the chemicals from the batteries. We're talking hydrofluoric acid and several other contaminants right into the water system.
So where do we go from here, Bonnie?
Well, I mean, this is going to be a really good test case because none of these systems, they are lithium iron, I can't even speak, iron type of batteries, but they are using the lithium ion instead because it's cheap and easy. So I honestly think that this is going to be a very big deal because if they sue, they're fighting them all over Long Island. They want to put these in. If they sue and win for damages, I have a feeling these folks are going to close up. They're never going to see their money. But I think the ability, I mean, Long Island, obviously we've got a heavy-duty population. We're surrounded by water. We've already got water contaminants that are going on. So now we want to add more. There's no protection for the average homeowner, anyone that consumes water in wells the way these projects are doing now. And this is part and parcel because of why? Up to 50% tax credit as a result of the Biden administration. Part of the Green New Deal that will make you sick.
Well, Bonnie Brady, would you keep us informed on what else we can do?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, John.
Thank you. Well, let's have an update of what's going on in the financial markets by John Terrett.
Good morning, John. Well, last week was a week of great records and deep sell-offs, as you know. One day worrying about Iran, the next day voting in favor of tech and AI, or rotating into the banks. Now, we had the Fed's beige book last week as well. It showed economic expansion in the U.S. is increasing in 10 of the 12 Fed regions, and that's better than April when it was 8. It also showed slightly stronger inflation, but stable jobs as well. Now, we had the ADP private jobs report on Wednesday. 122,000 were added, and the big one, of course, on Friday was the non-farms government jobs report. Stunning report. 172,000 jobs added, beating economists who forecast 88,000. That is really quite a remarkable difference. Now, this means, of course, the Fed meets under Kevin Warsh for the first time on the 16th and 17th of June. There can't be a rate cut now. There can't be. And Wall Street, I will tell you, John, is talking about a rate hike, if not 2, before the year's end. And they did not like that on Wall Street on Friday. You saw the big tech sell-off, and the reason is technology stocks, exciting though they are often over-leveraged. In other words, they have debt, they have borrowings, and when the interest rate goes up, they have to spend more on servicing their debt than they can on innovation, and that's basically the problem. Anthropic last week, the AI company behind Mythos and Claude, the bots, filed confidentially for an IPO. It means that they can go ahead and move towards having an IPO later in the year. we think probably the fall. They've beaten OpenAI, the people behind ChatGPT. They're great rivals to the public domain. So that's an interesting thing to watch. And, of course, Bitcoin at its lowest for 2 years this week. Two reasons for that. First of all, people are looking at AI as the shiny new bauble that they want to buy, not cryptocurrency anymore. And also a company called Strategy sold 32 Bitcoins last week to pay some dividends, and that spooked the market, and many people sold off, and that's why Bitcoin is so low this weekend. Next week, of course, is going to be dominated by SpaceX, a $75 billion IPO with a valuation of $1.7 trillion. The pricing is already going up. They said it will be $135 per share. Already people are buying in, so we'll find out what the final price will be on June the 11th, but it's likely to be more than the predicted $135 per share. And, of course, next week the World Cup gets underway. Very exciting. Biggest sporting event in the world. Brazil and Morocco, the first game in the Meadowlands, and that's Saturday at 6 p.m. John.
John Tarek, thank you for the update, and we'll catch up with you again next week.
Thank you, John. See you then.
Thank you for being with us for the Cats Roundtable Local Edition, the #1 show on Sunday mornings in New York. Keep listening to us for the Cats Roundtable National Edition between 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock. So we'll be back to you in a few minutes after the news.
Almonte's Key Food, proudly serving communities throughout Brooklyn, Queens, and Long Island for over 30 years. When you shop Key Food, you'll always find fresh products, great weekly specials, and exceptional personalized service. Visit at any of their Key Food stores at 8235 153rd Avenue, Lindenwood, New York, 935 Rosedale Road, Valley Stream, New York, and 6620 Avenue U, Brooklyn, New York.